So let's take formatting a cell another step further, because I'm just simply going to click on this cell again, and this could be any cell. In fact, it could even be a group of cells if I chose. So I have a cell. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to come down to format that cell. But this time I'm going to take a look at another feature here. Let me just bring this across so we can see it more clearly. I'm going to click on alignment, because alignment is one of those interesting things where we get to decide how a cell represents itself and how it reacts to printing or to zooming the size of the document in one form or another, or whether or not the content is aligned within the cell in a very specific area. So if I look at the ribbon, I recognize that I have right now several different positions that the font within it or the content within a cell can actually be placed. So let's just make this cell bigger. I'm just going to drag it a little bit so I can make this cell much larger so we can see this one cell. In fact, I'm going to zoom up a little bit. There you go. So now we can see that cell. We can see the content within it. And this cell is now selected. We can tell that by the green box around it. So right-clicking on it, formatting the cell. Just going to drag this out of your way for a moment. There we go. And with alignment, I can decide, or on the ribbon I can decide where that particular content should be. Now, horizontally, it can be where it is right at the moment. All numbers by default will always be included at the right bottom of the cell. All letters will automatically appear on the left bottom of a cell. So I can change the position. Maybe I want it in the center. So if I put the center and I now click OK, it automatically comes to the center of the cell. If I once again do this, and let's just go back to it again. Just going to drag this out of your way. There we go. I can now also change the vertical position and put this in the center. So there are theoretically 9 positions that your content could actually be in. So let me put this in the center, and now it's in the center of that actual cell. Of course, this depends on how big your cell is and whether or not there's an advantage to actually putting it in that position. So once again, I'm going to right-click and again go back to Format. Let's just drag this out of the way for a moment. There we go. So I can actually put it in a very specific position. Now remember, I said this just a moment ago, I could choose a large number of cells and effectively change all of them at the same time just by selecting them. We can also change the direction of the font. For instance, maybe I'd like to put it at 45 degrees. Now I could have typed it in, or I can simply move this little tiny handle and shift it around. So there's 45 degrees. And I can click on this and it changes to 45 degrees. Now the only disadvantage is every time I make an alteration, I have to click OK and I have to reopen it again. I can also, if there's a lot of text there, I can actually wrap it. Now this means if I had, let's say, quite a bit of content in here where I've been typing a note, and that note would just keep going and going in a continuous linear line. But by wrapping the text, it would actually start a new line every time it reaches the end of the cell. Otherwise, it just keeps going. So we can wrap the text as well. We'll see this in a later video as well. Shrinking to fit is something you have to think about very carefully, because when it comes to shrinking, it often means that you may not even be able to see the text. It will get so small, especially for printing. So this is not the best feature to put on for something that you intend to crunch a little bit. Now we'll look at this when we look at printing. because it will definitely have an impact at that point. Merging cells is something that we often have to do, and I'm going to show you an example of that in 1 second. So right to left, again, we can also choose the direction, and I'm simply going to set this back again. In fact, what I'll simply do is just type in 0, and it brings me right back again. So when I click OK, it'll bring me right back to where it was. There you go. And I'm simply going to put it back to where it was, and you'll notice it's still in the center. So I could come up here and I could actually put it where everything else is, and that happens to be using these particular icons for its positioning.